for the wonderful ambience that you've set for all of us. I'd also want to recognize both the leaders of Eisenhower Fellowship, as well as the leaders who are here from the other partner institutions that are supporting this wonderful initiative. For me, who spent the day today with the Kellogg Fellows and with the Eisenhower Fellows, it's been a wonderful day of exchange and a discovery of new friends that I intend to keep for life. So tough, I'm not gonna let you out of my sight. 2015 is a big year. It is a big year because it is the year when we evaluated what has happened in the last 20 years of implementing the Beijing Platform for Action, which was adopted 20 years ago in Beijing. It is the year when we finished the 15 years of implementing the Millennium Development Goals. It is the year when we adopted the new agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, which Christine just spoke about, which will replace the MDGs and will kick in on the 1st of January 2016. It is also the year when we reviewed 15 years of implementing Resolution 1325 of the Security Council, which is the resolution that recognizes the role of women in conflict areas, as well as women as peacemakers. It is also the year when the United Nations turned 70. So it's been a busy year at the UN, as you could imagine. It is also important to highlight that to mark the 20 years of the Beijing platform, we did a review of what has happened to women in the last 20 years. What has changed? What needs to be changed, and what is working and what isn't working. In that review, on the positive side, we found that in the last 20 years, one thing that really worked well and improved was girls' education. That especially for the countries that started at the lowest level in terms of access to education for girls, those countries did a very good job. Girls still drop out. The quality is not great in all the countries, but it's not out of lack of trying for countries, and they are committed to get it better and better. We also found in the review that many countries have created what is called gender machinery, which is institutions that supports and promotes gender equality. It was after Beijing that countries created the women's ministries, the gender focal points, the equal opportunity programs, and so on. So there has been a lot of investment in making changes. We also found that in the last 20 years, countries passed a lot of laws that address gender equality. It was in the last 20 years that many countries recognized domestic violence as a crime, and a handful of countries also began to even recognize marital rape as a crime. Many countries passed legislation also that allow women to own property, which was not the same in many other countries, but the work is not done. We still have quite a significant number of countries who have not, but a bulk of countries took this great step. Countries amended constitutions in the last 20 years in order to reflect gender equality. In the last 20 years also, we saw progress in the reduction of maternal death, as well as infant mortality. We're not where we should be, but definitely countries did a lot, and they know now what causes infant deaths, as well as the deaths of mothers who should be celebrating giving a baby, but sometimes end up losing their lives. In the last 20 years, we also saw that countries that approached health services to women in a targeted way did a lot of good work to improve the women's health, and therefore we knew that there's something that is called women's health, and it has to be targeted. In the last 20 years, countries also did a lot to fight HIV and AIDS. There was a time when we thought that, especially in my part of the world was going to come to an end because of HIV and AIDS. Countries invested a lot of time, energy, research, and hard work. And right now, we've seen that there's more people who are living with HIV and AIDS who are having a fulfilled life. And we also know what needs to be done, especially for girls and women, to avoid being infected. In the last 20 years, we also reduced poverty in the world, even though we also had some setbacks where in some parts of the countries, of the world rather, inequality has increased. So, you know, these efforts need to be celebrated, and there's more and more women who are visible in position of power. But in the last 20 years, the investment in women's work by countries, by private sector, by foundations, has not increased significantly. For instance, in many countries, governments only invest about 10% of the funds that are required for the government programs that they pass as in their cabinets for implementation, what I call the sewing machine syndrome. We'll just throw a sewing machine to a woman, they'll just see how to make it happen, not recognizing gender equality is a serious business and it's expensive. You have to invest in it, and the returns are always very high. It is one area of investment where the returns are always good. They always go up, they never come down. In the last 20 years also, the violence against women did not increase. We have seen instead a complex field of violence against women that has moved from domestic violence to cyber crimes and all kinds of challenges that we face there. So are we in a good space or not? I prefer to look at the glass as half filled, not half empty. We have all those challenges, but we have just adopted as the world the most comprehensive program since the Second World War to address renewal of the world, a global agenda that all countries can identify with. And what is unique about this program is that women are in the center, in the front, and we have adopted indicators in order to make sure that we measure how this new agenda is going to impact on women. So the news for you this evening is that the next 15 years is going to have to be a sprinting marathon, where we rush to 2030, and as we go along the way, we bend the curve for gender inequality downwards in a sustainable way, because we have got evidence from MDGs. We know what works. We have evidence from the Beijing platform. We know what works and what doesn't work. We can make smart and critical choices in order to make sure that by 2030, we truly have substantive equality. We truly have made sure that we have no unequal pay. We have reduced violence against women. We have eliminated child marriages. We have increased the number of women who are in decision-making. It is in our hands. We are the first generation with a real possibility to significantly decrease poverty in the world. The first generation with a real and a true possibility to change power relations between men and women in a significant world. The last generation with a real possibility to address climate change decisively. So in every generation, there is a mission that you have to fulfill. You can either betray the mission or fulfill it, according to Frantz Fanon, the great African philosopher. I think it is within our hands as this generation to fulfill this mission and to make sure that by 2030, we have actually changed the world significantly, and there's enough instruments, policy, and capacity and will sitting in these benches that can make that happen. So I look forward to sprinting with you in this marathon for the next 15 years. Thank you.